If you know me at all, then you know that I'm a huge Disney nerd. The parks, the characters, the movies, princesses, Star Wars, the whole shebang. In fact, I'm such a Disney nerd that I painted 2 entire denim jackets covered with various Disney characters, one focused solely on princesses, and then the other one on just random characters mostly that appear and sign in the parks, and then just a few extra favorites. And I wore both of these to multiple Disney trips to get them signed by a bunch of different characters. This one definitely has all the different princesses, and I think this one has something like 36, 37 different signatures on it now, so I'm kind of obsessed. If you want some tips and tricks on how to make your own version of these jackets, I have some videos with some how-to tips and tricks on how I did mine, as well as character interactions, and I will link that in the description box down below. So considering how obsessed I am with Disney, it should come as no surprise that my friends also love Disney, and my best friend actually just had her first baby little girl this summer, and we call her Princess Astrid in our little group text because we're all kind of obsessed and we're all convinced that we're princesses, so of course she will be too. So I knew exactly what to make our little princess for her first Christmas. My second denim jacket came from Old Navy because I know that they have them with regularity, as well as they occasionally go on sale and get very, very cheap. So I knew I could go to Old Navy and get a teeny tiny one. I didn't want to get one in Astrid's current size because we're going into winter, it's a Christmas present, she's not going to be able to wear it right away anyway. So I went a little bit bigger, and there's always a little bit of leeway with a jacket anyway, but it's just so tiny and so cute. I absolutely love it. I played with a lot of ideas on what to paint on this jacket. Should I paint my friend's favorite princess/princesses, or Mickey and Minnie, or what have you? I don't know. I had a lot of different ideas going around in my head, but I know from my princess jacket, my original one, I didn't want non-princesses to sign it. I wanted it to have that theme, and I wasn't sure where the mother was going to want to go with this down the line. Maybe she didn't want to have anybody sign it. I don't know. I don't know what her thing is going to be, and maybe the princess, Astrid, by the time she gets to go to Disney, is going to have a very firm favorite princess, and I might not have chosen that one. So I decided to go a little more nondescript, but definitely Disney. So across the top of the back, I'm going to write Princess Astrid in the Disney font, and then I'm going to put Cinderella's castle across the back. I think that's just so quintessential Disney, and they're definitely going to be more likely to go to Disney World than Disneyland, and the new castle is just so pretty. I know a lot of people don't like the whole new repaint. I personally love it. It's very girly and opulent and just right up my aesthetic, so why not? So my first step was to go into my computer and type out Princess Astrid in the Disney font. I actually have a couple different versions of that font in my computer, so I typed it out and then picked the one that I liked the best, and I printed it out pretty large so it would go across the entire width of the paper, so I would have a really good idea of proportion and lettering size. If you haven't taken a bunch of classes in hand lettering like I had to for my degree, then you could definitely feel a little less confident about your ability to hand letter. So in that case, there are a couple different options. If you have a Cricut or similar type machine, this would definitely be a time you could do some heat transfer vinyl, or you could have just a regular computer printer that has the printout sheets that you can print your own iron-on transfer, and you could do the lettering and the image in either of those if you wanted. I personally just like that hand-painted look. I love on my own jacket how they started out so crisp and clean, and just through general wear, because they are my go-to jackets for any sort of appropriate weather, but through general wear and tear, of course, the colors and the paint have faded slightly, which I knew was going to happen, so I started off very bright and saturated with all of my colors, but I actually kind of love that sort of worn-in look. I think it just really shows how loved this jacket is. I wanted to start at the top with my lettering so that could dry as I worked on the other portions of the jacket. So I took my printout and folded that in half so I would have the center of each word and know where to start, and then on the actual jacket I started at the center point and worked my way out. I found that pencil doesn't really show up super well on the jackets, so I do my initial sketch with this little tiny thin Sharpie pen, and for most things I just try not to do a lot of super hard lines until I'm pretty confident with where everything is going. So I started off with the name because that's the bottom of the two words, and I wrote that out along the seam of the yoke line on the jacket. Since the bottom word was able to keep nice and level because I had that seam to use as a guideline, I needed some sort of a guideline for the top word. And for that, in this case, I used just regular Scotch tape. This is perfect because it will stick well enough to the jacket that it's not going to move around too much while I'm working, but it's also clear so I can see through that and look at the letters below, so I know I'm keeping sort of similar spacing from what I've already written. You could use something like masking tape or duct tape or whatever, but then you're not going to be able to see what you've already written through it, so I find that Scotch tape works perfectly. And this time of year, don't we all have a ton of this regular tape just sitting around from wrapping presents? And now that I have the entire jacket sketched in with my Sharpie pen, I'm ready to move on to actual painting. For my lettering as well as accents on the castle, I'm using this gold metallic paint. I've had people comment on like TikToks and Instagrams before asking me what that gold paint is because it's so nice and shiny, and this is the actual gold paint that I use on a regular basis. It's a Liquitex Basics gold metallic. You can tell it's well loved because it's covered in paint all over the tube, but I use it a lot for very different surfaces, from denim jackets to canvases to whatever. I just like the amount of shine that I get, but it's not glittery. It's a really good basic gold. Once I had all the gold lettering filled in, I was ready to move down and start on the castle. I was trying to kind of work top to bottom, left to right, to avoid any weird smudging, and so that hopefully by the time I finished all the way going down on one color, when I went to start with the second color, the top portion of that area would now be dry, so again, I wouldn't be doing any smudging or anything as I worked down with the second color. And then lather, rinse, repeat. As I've learned on my previous jackets, when I'm working on this denim material, I really try to push the paint down into the surface of the fabric. Denim fabric has a somewhat textured surface, so if you are too cautious with just lightly layering the paint down across the top, then it's going to chip out of those areas that are recessed very easily. So I find it holds up a lot better if I really push the paint down into the fabric more. Once I finished the pink areas, I moved on to the gray stone sections of the castle. I didn't want to go white or too light because I figured as the coat had some regular wear and tear from a small child wearing it, that would sort of not show up very well very quickly, but I didn't want to go too dark, so I went with this fairly light to medium tone gray. Then once again from top to bottom, kind of left to right, I filled in all the blue roof sections. Then the really fun gold accents got to be added in, and who doesn't love a little bit of sparkle in a princess jacket? It also has the added benefit that since I used the same gold on the lettering as I did on the accents on the castle, it ties the two together very nicely. Then I went through with sort of a dark charcoal gray and added in just a few minor accents like the door and a few of the windows, just to give a little bit of contrast and add some details and some depth without going too crazy. The actual castle is obviously very intricate and detailed, and I obviously didn't put every single little nook and cranny into this, but it is a tiny child's jacket, and I actually think it ended up being very sweet. And of course, anytime you're doing an original piece of art, you should always remember to sign it. That's a nice little claim to your work, but it also shows that yes, this is an original piece. It's just a fun little detail that I think you should always add in. And here is the tiny finished jacket. Isn't that cute? Can't you imagine this little peanut running around in this, whether it's at the park or wherever? I just think it's super cute, and I'm very happy with how this turned out. What do you think? Perfect first Christmas present from Aunt Larissa, or what? I really hope that the mom and little Princess Astrid are as happy with this as I am. I hope you have a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. Have a beautiful day, and I will see you next time.